What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. Today's video is all about this team in the Galar Cup that is so freaking strong. I went 22-8 with this team, climbed like almost 200 points in a day. God, I don't even know if it was really 200. I started in the mid 2400s and I ended in the mid 2600s. So yeah, I guess it was almost 200 points. Incredible team, really flexible team as well. A lot of people not really ready for this right here, the Alolan Ninetales. Mine is Shadow. I prefer it. If you have one, I would definitely recommend the Shadow, but it's not necessary if you don't have a Shadow. Now, in order to back up the Alolan Ninetales, ground types are typically going to be your best bet. We decided to throw Diggersby as our second here, but you could certainly do, a Gastrodon or a Golurk or some other ground type, something that is able to really put the hurt on things like Toxapex while also doing, well and in just in general, right? A good ground type. Mudslappers and Diggersby are very good in this role. And for the third, we have the Shadow Swagsire itself. Really flexible Pokemon here on the safe swap with Quagsire, having Aqua Tail and Stone Edge to be able to hit so many things, and Mudshot pressures the poisons. I was talking about it in my team's video yesterday, but Shadow Quagsire really is, in my opinion, the best safe swap Pokemon in this meta because it's able to put so much pressure onto everything. We went, again, 22-8 with this team. Let's get right into these games here. I picked 3 sets because I want to be able to show off some of the more, impactful, games here, and the other sets basically were a couple of learning sets, and then a set where it was basically me hard countering people and people hard countering me. Didn't really feel like that one was really worth adding. But here we have a Psyshock here. The opponent has an Alolan Ninetales. This is a bit of a weird lead here. Now, this was my 3rd set with the team, so I have gotten a decent idea. Yeah, I correctly shielded the Dazzling Gleam, which if the opponent baits there, it's probably really uncomfortable. But in this case now, after the Gleam, they went for only about 4 or 5. So I know this is only a Weather Ball, and I'm going to go for a Weather Ball after farming up a little bit extra. I just saw how much a Weather Ball did to me, so I should be able to fire one off here, and if they don't shield, I can either get the KO and farm down. The opponent has a Gastrodon here, and I need to chip this down a little bit. I have seen one Gastrodon, with Water Pulse. Most of them are just running their typical moveset, so I'm going to go for a couple of Weather Balls here, try to even out the shields, and then get into either Quagsire or Diggersby, depending on how I'm feeling. I really think that Diggersby could be good in the back, considering that they had the Alolan Ninetales lead. I'm expecting them to have either Diggersby or another ground type in the back like Golurk. I feel like at this point, if they had like a Quagsire, I would have seen it already. There is the Diggersby here. They're going to come in with Diggersby. They're almost playing a mirror team. So again, if you don't have the Quagsire, you could run a Whiscash. You could run a Swamp. I don't think Swampert's in this cup. I know Whiscash is in this cup, but I really like the Quagsire having that Stone Edge. Now, it's a very accessible Pokemon. Quagsire, I believe, is the only one that I would say use a Shadow. Like, if you don't have a Shadow, I feel like you're genuinely kind of missing out. But we're able to take that game by overpowering the opponent's Diggersby. Good game. Getting into the next team with Chargebug on the lead, another really interesting core breaker in this meta, able to beat the Mandibuzz and a lot of the, poisons as far as like Toxapex and Quillfish, things like that. So we're going to stay in and go for a Weather Ball to chip, and then we're going to go into the Quagsire here. Now, there's definitely something to be said about maybe going straight into Quagsire because we resist the Volt Switches. And the opponent comes in with a Ferrothorn. I overfarm thinking I'm going to be able to. The opponent goes for the Power Whip immediately. Boom! And cooks my face off. So at this point now, what I'm looking to hopefully do is I'm just trying to get rid of this Ferrothorn, but I'm also noting that some energy on my Ninetales could go pretty far in this matchup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shield up and invest into my Ninetales, and I'm going to try and get rid of this Ferrothorn. That's number 1. I have to get rid of the Ferrothorn. I cannot let Diggersby come in. Even though Diggersby does have the Fire Punches, I just cannot let it happen. So the opponent now comes in with their Chargebug, and at this point, I see an opportunity to potentially have energy on my Diggersby for when the opponent comes back in with their Ferrothorn. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in with Diggersby, and I'm going to fully farm this thing down. I will take the X-Scissors. I will take... my back is against the wall, okay? So far, I have been absolutely demolished by a Ferrothorn, and this Chargebug is putting pressure on me. The only hope that I have is just taking a gamble that Diggersby can do well against whatever's in the back. So now we're going to have to see what the opponent does. They're waiting out their switch timer here. Maybe wanting to try and make a catch at some point. They come in with the Ferrothorn, either to shield and get a move off, or at this point, they're basically just going to have to eat the energy. Fire Punch does knock out the Ferrothorn, and they have an Alolan Ninetales of their own in the back. So now, I'm trying to pay attention here. I have Fire Punches to be able to deal with this thing. I'm going to go for a couple. If it was a Shadow Alolan Ninetales, this would have been a lot easier in my opinion, because I could have just gone for these Fire Punches, and I think I don't know if I could have made a third Fire Punch there, but I definitely think that it was probably the wrong play to switch here in hindsight. I was hoping that the Psyshock would do enough for me to be able to farm down, but I do realize at this point too, my opponent has 2 Weather Balls loaded. So at this point, I've lost the game. I think that I would have been better off just simply staying in with the Diggersby and trying to get to another Fire Punch, or forcing them to throw the energy that they had, and then maybe those quick attacks would have been enough for the Psyshock to get the knockout. But opponent played this very well, clinching the end game and taking me down. Good game. Getting into the next game here, we have a Galarian Weezing, and this is what I love to see. I swap out immediately so they don't know whether I have Charm or not. They come in with Gastrodon. What they do here is they come in with something that's farmable. If Alolan Ninetales, if I can get Shadow Quagsire to get shield advantage, which most of the time I do in this matchup, because we get to 2 Aqua Tails here before they're able to get to an Earth Power, and that also means that they either have to consider shielding here, like this trainer did, or they have to let it go and just freely give up switch advantage, at which point I can usually shield and then just farm down anyway, and then apply a ton of pressure to the Weezing afterwards. So I think there's a game later on in the video that shows that happening as well. But the Galarian Weezing here is really going to give me an opportunity to farm down. Now, in this case, I think this was earlier on, so I didn't really have it, but I was trying to get both shields off the opponent here. Ninetales is going to come in, and again, we can fully farm this thing down, and I'm shielding because they do have the ability to get to an Earth Power here, and I'm going to make sure I don't take one. It is a good shield. The opponent comes in with the Weezing, and now it's time to see how much damage the Psyshock does. Spoiler alert, it does a lot. And against the Shadow, it almost completely knocks out. And we come in with the Diggersby here, and I am in a good position. The opponent will only be able to get off this Play Rough, or Overheat in their case. Most trainers are running Play Rough in this meta, but Overheat is a very solid option as well. I think it really just depends on what we start to see. Like, if we start seeing more Alolan Ninetales, I think we're going to be seeing more people run that. But Diggersby is loaded, and it's going to come down to what's in the back. The opponent working on coming in with their Pokemon here. They have a Gastrodon with low HP, and they have the Mandibuzz. So at this point, my win condition is fairly clear. As soon as I can, I'm bringing in my Ninetales, and we are just going to start going for Weather Balls. Now, I'm going to do it and make sure that my timing is good here, because my opponent is most likely going to utilize that Gastrodon to try to make a catch. So I need to be careful of that happening. The opponent's going to throw a move here, and then I am expecting them to probably try to swap at some point soon. So as long as I'm paying attention to the Snarls, the opponent swaps here, and we're good. I was going to go for 4 and then throw if they were in the middle of a Snarl. That would have been fine, because that way they can't swap out in the middle of a Snarl. So we're able to take this one, catching the catch. Good game. Next game up here, we've got Ninetales on the lead versus a Golurk. This is a very good matchup, but it's a lot closer than you'd think. We're going to stay in here and go for the Powder Snows, which are absolutely ripping through this Golurk, but the Golurk is ripping through my Ninetales just the same, having the Shadow-boosted Mud Slaps. Our HP is going down at about the same rate here. So the opponent now is going to go for most likely a Shadow Punch at this range. It would knock me out. I don't want to let this Golurk get anywhere near my Diggersby, and Quagsire would do okay here. Like, I have an option to not give up switch here. I could just let it go and save the shield, but I feel like if they're staying in with Golurk, there's a solid chance that they're weak in the back to the Ninetales. Perhaps they're running a Mandibuzz of their own, which would be an interesting team composition, but I could see it because ground and flying are very commonly cored together. We're able to get a Stone Edge off here, and the opponent's Clefable is going to go for a move. This is probably just a Moonblast, and then it's going to come down to what they have in the back here. They still have a shield available for their Pokemon. The Clefable is going to be able to farm this down here. If they decide not to shield this, it could be game over for me, depending on what's in the back. The opponent does shield here. Clefable is going to be able to store a move here, I'm pretty sure. And they come in with the Galarian Weezing, but unfortunately for my opponent, we have the Scorching Sands available here. We're going to be able to knock this thing out, and the opponent will have to basically land the Moonblast and then some to be able to knock us out from this range. So we are going to be able to get this farm down, not farm down here, but we're going to be able to do a lot of damage, and then the opponent is going to throw, I'm just going to go ahead and swap in. I'm hoping that my Diggersby can handle the Moonblast that's coming its way. I think that there's definitely a case to be made for just not swapping and eating that play rough, and then having the Ninetales have the move ready, because the opponent's Clefable would have been forced to throw. So we almost get knocked out, however. Diggersby with those PvP IVs hanging on by literal 1 HP in a dream, and we get the Scorching Sands off for the win. Good game. Now, I took a very big risk. I think that catching was unnecessary, and also I was better off getting a safer win not catching in that scenario. Opponent comes in with a Water Gun Lantern. What are you doing in my swamp? Get your stupid fish out of here. I'm going to shield up the first one just in case I get a Scorching Sands debuff. I'd rather take a debuffed Surf than not. And I kind of have to fight for Switch here, but I can also keep in mind that my Quagsire can still land a Stone Edge later on in the game. The opponent decides not to shield the Scorching Sands here. Kind of wondering if they're looking to shield anything at all. I'm going to go for the Fire Punch here because they had a slight energy lead. I don't know that I'm going to be able to reliably get through this Lantern, and I'm gonna have to give up a second shield. So I'm just like, you know what? At this point, this is in farm down range for my Alolan Ninetales. Maybe we can make something happen here. I'm just gonna go for the Fire Punch, see if I can get a shield at this point, and then we're gonna see what the opponent wants to do. They actually let it go, which is really, really nice here. The opponent not getting very much farm on the Drifblim. We come back in with the Ninetales, and they have a Weezing in the back. This is best case scenario for us because we still have the Swagsire in the back, and we've got a Psyshock that the opponent is going to respect. That would have actually nearly one-shot the Weezing from that range. It would have been very deep in the red if not knocked out. I did Psyshock a Shadow Weezing very early on in the day, and it was incredibly potent. We've also Psyshocked some Toxapexes. That does a solid like 40% to their health bar, which is pretty crazy. We have the Aqua Tail available here. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save the shield now for my Alolan Ninetales. The opponent makes an immediate pivot into the Drifblim, and I'm going to go for this Weather Ball. I'm hoping that this is enough to knock it out because I don't want to get Icy Winded here. But with the shield, we're going to knock out the Drifblim, and we just need to get to a Weather Ball. The opponent goes for a move, and I'm more than confident that this is a Brutal Swing, but I'm not taking any chances here. We're just going to go ahead, shield that up, throw the Weather Ball, and be able to knock out this Weezing. And it looked like CMP there for a moment, but I realized afterwards, no, the opponent just conceded right after. So good game. And in this first set, we're taking a 4-1 to start off, and we went 4-1, 3-2, 4-1, 3-2, 3-2, 5-0 to cap off the day. So now we're going to get into the final two sets of the day, which was a 3-2. And again, I'm not afraid to show my 3-2s. I actually let out a 4-1 just to show off a 3-2. You know how humble you have? No, I'm not gonna go there. But we see a Quagsire lead in this game here, and I'm gonna go straight into my own Quagsire here. Now the thing is the opponent can win this matchup if they want to. I don't know if this was the game they were running Mud Bomb. I know there was one Quagsire that was running this one. It was this one. Okay. The Quagsire here is running Mud Bomb, which actually allows me to outpace them to the Aqua Tails because their Mud Bomb is slightly more expensive on energy. I believe it's straight 5 to Mud Bomb, whereas the Aqua Tail is going to be 4 or 5. So opponent comes in with Frostlass, and they miscounted. And this Frostlass gets one shot. And then they come in with a Shadow Charizard. And I'm just sitting here like, my team gets cooked by Shadow Charizard. What do we do about this? So I come in with the Diggersby, and I have a grand plan that I have no idea if it's going to work or not. I'm going to do as much damage as I can to this Charizard. And then I'm going to come in with Ninetales after they either get the knockout or throw some energy here. They throw a... Blast Burn does so much damage, dude. We're going to go for this Fire Punch. Again, I just want chip damage, or if I can get the shield here. Their opponent, the opponent's Charizard is on Fire Spin, so it is significantly slower than it used to be, but they're not going to be able to get to the 2 moves they need to knock us out, so that's going to be a good game. Well played. All right, getting into this next game, Ninetales versus Toxapex. Hard lead loss here. I need to get into my Quagsire quickly and try to win Switch, and the opponent comes with a Shadow Golurk. They don't have a solid response to the Quagsire, or they misclicked. That's the only 2 options here, because the opponent would essentially almost get one shot by Shadow Aqua Tails here. Golurk is made of literal wet paper, so if you just apply a little bit of force to it, it just kind of falls over. But in return, it does a ton of damage back. I'm flipping this matchup here, and I know I can because the opponent needs at least a couple more Mud Slaps to get to the third Shadow Punch, and they are now getting to the second one that they're throwing. So I can just go for one more. I just need to make sure they don't try to catch here. As soon as I see the Golurk rear back and try to punch my face in with the Mud Slap, I'm going to go ahead and let the Aqua Tail go, knowing that they can't catch the move. We're going to take it out, and the opponent has a Clay Doll in the back. That explains why they did not come in with it or with anything else earlier. So this is now an unnecessary Aqua Tail. Like, the game actually did not work correctly in my favor for a change, right? So the opponent's going to go for a charge move here. I'm expecting to be Shadow Ball or Sand or Scorching Sand, but they go for Rock Tomb, and that was not on my bingo card for the day. But we have the Diggersby. Switch advantage was huge here. We're going to be able to come in with the Diggersby, and with the quick attacks and Scorching Sands, it just is enough to two-shot a higher ranked Toxapex. I think it's like 2 quick attacks in addition to the quick attacks and Scorching Sands landing here. So we're going to be able to take this matchup. The opponent is not going to have a switch timer able to be used here before we are able to take them out. So we're just going to go for the Scorching Sands. We also get the attack debuff just to add more insult to injury here, unfortunately, for this opponent. They concede, and that is a good game. Getting into the next game against a very talented battler in Ferrixter. I don't know how he's been lately, but at the beginning, he used to be a consistent top leaderboarder, one of the trainers that I actually looked up to and admired, and still do, honestly. And I was very happy to queue up against him, because he's one of the trainers that I actually did a lot of learning from back in the early days of when I was playing Go Battle League, when I was trying to hit Legend for the first time. So it was really kind of a, student meets the teacher here. Now, the opponent is going to bring in their Drapion. We're going to answer immediately with the Quagsire. Because we can tank one move, the opponent has to shield everything in order to win switch here. And so I'm assuming that they might try to. Now, I'm going to go for the Aqua Tail here. They're actually going to let this go. We get a slight farm down, which is nice. They're going to come back in with the Shiftry. And we're going to be able to get to a Stone Edge here before the opponent's going to be able to get to their first move or farm down. And the opponent, I was over farming, hoping they would throw a Leaf Blade. But again, I am talking about a very, very skilled trainer. I was hoping that they wouldn't shield the Stone Edge, and I really wish I had kind of baited now. But in hindsight, like, there's no chance that I ever bait there because I don't know that I'm getting the 2 moves. Right, so now I come in with my Ninetales. Ninetales can eat once Leaf Blade, but I'm not sure how much damage it actually does. So it does just over half, so I have to shield the second one. And now it's going to be tough, man. We're going to have to see what the opponent decides to do here. It's going to come in with a Toxapex. I'm going to bank a Weather Ball for later. And then I know that in the zeros and every other even shield scenario, Diggersby dominates this matchup. And I have to be cognizant of the fact that the Shiftry has some energy left over, right? So he went... you saw him go for the 2 Leaf Blades. And I don't know how many exactly Snarls were made there, so I'm gonna have to just do my best to guess here, but I'm hoping that they're not gonna be able to get to another one real quick. I know that, like, max energy, I think Leaf Blade is 35. You basically 1 Snarl away if you're at 100 energy, so if he threw the back-to-back, if he's less than 2 away, I lose. And I make a crucial mistake, and he makes a very, very good play here. Going for this Leaf Blade right on the cap tie. Unfortunately, I went for the fast move and didn't swap. I was kind of anticipating the swap, but thankfully, they're 1 away still from this Leaf Blade. We're going to be able to land the Fire Punch and then farm down the Toxapex. I probably should have lost that game, but very well played on both ends. Getting into the next battle here, we got a Ninetales and a Quagsire. I've started to swap out of these immediately, but unfortunately the game decides not to listen to me, as it normally does. So now I'm going to be more than 1 behind this opponent's Quagsire here, and they are running the Aqua Tail, so I don't really have a chance to flip this. They come in with a Togetic, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go for a cheeky bait here. And sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't, but the opponent calls it. They probably know that they can live the Stone Edge. I should have just gone for the... Don't bait, all right? Don't bait. Just go for the Stone Edge. I now can't make the Stone Edge after the Aerial Ace, so I'm forced to go for another Aqua Tail. This does set up Ninetales for a nice farm down, and I'm going to try to use that to deal with the Quagsire. Now, the opponent is going to be able to get to a move here before going down, but what it is, I have to assume it's a Dazzling Gleam, because they're at 8. That's enough for it. We correctly shield up the Gleam. Now, can we transfer this energy that we've gained into the Quagsire and make something happen? Let's find out. So in comes the Quagsire. We have 2 Weather Balls loaded. They are still 2 away from their next Aqua Tail, or 1 away from the Aqua Tail, I should say. So I'm going to throw right away here, get both of these off, try to get a shield off the opponent, and then I'm going to have to stay in for just a little bit, and I decide I'm going to try to catch when they get to 7 on the Stone Edge. Now, here's what it's going to come down to what's in the back. I don't know what's in the back. They have a Frost Last. Oh, I'm cooked, man. I'm absolutely cooked. We're going to see if we can pull this one off. Fire punches are going to do super effective damage, but they amount to basically nothing against this Frostlass. This Frostlass can safely tank 2 moves here. The opponent is going to be able to go for a move. I have to let this go. The Avalanche is going to knock out my poor little bunny. This time, he's not going to be able to hang on with 1 HP. We're going to go for the Psyshock, but it's a cap tie with the opponent, and I think they're at 13, so I thought this might be enough for a Shadow Ball, but in hindsight, I think they were 1 short of the Shadow Ball in that situation. But Psyshock is going to be able to take them out here. They decide not to shield. They're going to leave the shield for the Quagsire. Can we farm down? They're at 6 when they throw. Is this a Stone Edge? Is the Aqua Tail? Is it enough? Is the Aqua Tail enough? Unfortunately, it's enough. We're going to be taking out. Very, very close game here, but well played to the opponent. All right, getting to the next battle. We got another one. This time, though, I'm going to be able to swap out right. We're going to be able to swap out right away. The opponent's going to go for that Aqua Tail before we can get to ours. Again, there's always a 1-turn delay when you switch at the beginning of a battle. So if you do that into a mirror fight, you're always going to be 1 turn behind. So I'm going to be going for Aqua Tails when I'm 1 away from the next, because I want to guarantee that I get the damage off, and I need to not, you know, I don't know if I win cap or not. I don't know if I win charge attack priority or not here. My Quagsire has 4 attacks, so there's a solid chance that I just win charge attack priority here, but I don't really want to, you know, mess around and find out. I want to try and see if I can get this down into the 1 shield scenario, whittle down this Quagsire that is an absolute menace to my poor Diggersby here. We're getting that thing low enough now where Ninetales could come in and get some seriously nice farm. Since they were throwing their moves pretty much right away, they should not be able to get to a Stone Edge here, so I can safely let this go, and then the opponent's going to come in with their next Pokemon, and I'm hoping that the energy that I get on my Ninetales will be helpful here. The opponent has the Drapion in the back. It's a non-shadow, and then they come in with their own Alolan Ninetales, and at this point, I'm sort of feeling like I'm probably not going to win this game. I've been kind of hard countered in the regards here. I'm just going for as many fire punches as I can. I know that I can live a Weather Ball here. I don't think I can live 2, but it is non-Shadow Ninetales. Hard to say. I could live 2 Weather Balls. However, I don't think I would live the Powder Snows after. So I'm going to stay in here. We're going to go for the Fire Punch if we can. I was thinking if my clock was going to be up, maybe I'd be able to make a catch. But unfortunately for me, I'm not going to be able to. I actually shield this up here, and I'm hoping that maybe I can try to get some damage in against the Drapion. We're going to go for a Fire Punch bait here, but from what I can already see from this game, and I'm kind of thinking it as I'm playing it, I'm going to go for the moves here. We have back-to-back Weather Balls, but I don't know that it's going to be enough. The opponent simply just needs to get the 2 Aqua Tails here, and they win charge attack priority against my poor bunny here. Unfortunately for us, we are going to fall to this Drapion. The opponent playing this endgame out perfectly as they needed to in order to take this win against us. And, I mean, when it comes to all of these hard counter teams that I'm losing to, I'm able to make them pretty close with this team. So if that says anything about this team, I don't know what does. So we're going to take a 3-2, and we're going to get into the next set. So another Galarian Weezing in the lead here. I love to see it. I do technically have 2 ground type better answers in the back. The opponent comes in with the Gastrodon, and I'm going to be throwing my Aqua Tails here as soon as I can. We go on 4 once they swap in because that's the proper timing, and then we go on 4 again here right when we get to it. Normally, I always try to over farm whenever I can, but at this point, like, the timing of the Aqua Tails is good enough that we're going to be able to just go in. So the opponent now, he has a choice to make. Do they throw the Body Slam and get 2 moves in, or do they throw the Earth Power and just try and knock me out? They go for the Body Slam. I know that this is only a Body Slam, and I can let this go. My Quagsire still has a little bit of juice left in the tank. His Body Slam's not going to do a lot, and this is honestly pretty bad for my opponent. We're going to be able to go for an Aqua Tail. These Mud Shots are ripping through the Weezing. Look at it. It's just, they're doing so much damage. The opponent is forced to throw right away here, and I am going to go ahead and let this go. Quagsire has done its job. It's gotten me switch advantage, and again, we usually swap out of these leads immediately just so that they maybe think that I'm on Charm. Now, my opponent gets a little bit of energy on their Weezing and swaps out here. The thing is, though, is that I am up a shield against the opponent's Diggersby, or not up a shield. I'm even shields with this Diggersby. There was another game that I'm probably thinking of that comes later that we are up a shield against the opponent's Diggersby, but this game, we are up a shield. The opponent gets the debuff before I do, and I'm like, RNG, you've done it again. We're gonna go for another Scorching Sands though, but this time we get the debuff. But because we were debuffed first, I was content to swap out anyway, regardless. Excuse me, because that's going to allow us to get to the Psyshock here. The opponent going for a move. Is it going to be the Play Rough? They go for the Brutal Swing bait. We call the bait. I don't know that a Play Rough would have knocked out there either, but I'm getting the Psyshock off. The opponent lets it go. And at this point, their poor bunny is just so far behind on almost everything that they are unfortunately not going to have a way to win this game anymore. We are going to be able to take them out with the weather ball, and that's going to be a good game. Well played. I am telling you guys, Alolan Ninetales with Psyshock is a force in this meta. Watch this. We have a Mandibuzz lead. Great lead. Opponent comes in with a Gastrodon. We're going to be able to go for 6 Powder Snows and Chip because, once again, that 1 turn delay means that we can go for 6 right before they finish their 4th Mudslap. And then we can bring in the Diggersby because, again, I'm banking on the fact that they don't have Water Pulse. Earth Power does a fairly decent amount of damage, but at this point, I would much rather get my Diggersby away from the Mandibuzz. And if I overfarm enough here, the Quick Attacks and Fire Punches will add up enough to make this exchange worth it. Even though this is not a great matchup for me, I'm still fine as long as I can come out of this with some energy. So they're gonna go ahead and throw this Scorching Sands here. The opponent gonna let their Gastrodon go. We're still all 2 shields in. We're gonna go for the Fire Punch, and I'm just gonna go for as many Fire Punches, throwing on either 1, 4, or 7 for good timing as I can before they throw a move to take us out here. And my Ninetales is in the back, more than capable of tanking this energy, even though it's missing some HP from those Mud Slaps. Aerial Aces really aren't going to do a whole ton of damage to us, and they can't really throw the Foul Play or the Dark Pulse. I've seen a little bit of both. I've been 50-50 on the Mandibuzzes with the move that they've got, but Aerial Ace is going to be able to knock us out here, but that's okay. Diggersby has more than done its job, and we're going to be able to put the Ninetales in, and the opponent's going to go for an Aerial Ace to get some chip in. Now they're also staying in with the Mandibuzz, so I'm wondering if they're weak in the back to the Ninetales. Maybe they have their own Diggersby back there. That would make a lot of sense to me. And if that's the case, then my Quagsire is absolutely happy to see this. Now, whatever the opponent's got in the back here, it's got to be an answer, or it's got to be bad against Ninetales, because there's no reason for the opponent to be staying in here. They should just swap in the, whatever they've got. But they actually have a Toxapex in the back, and as soon as they see the Quagsire, they decide to concede. So well played, good game. I didn't even expect the Toxapex back there. And normally I do expect Toxapex in the back by Mandibuzz. Like, it just makes sense for those two to be together, right? But like the way that the opponent was playing, it really threw me off. So I mean, if you want to do that on purpose to people, it will definitely mess with them. Like if you are like using your Mandibuzz as a way to get rid of a Ninetales, that'll definitely confuse somebody, and I don't think that this is even a bad thing. So we're going to be able to chip with the Psyshock, and I just come right in with the Quagsire. It doesn't matter what the opponent throws here. We can fully farm down, and this Quagsire's energy is going to go into this Diggersby very, very hard. Watch how much damage these Aqua Tails are going to do. We're going to be able to get 2 of them off at least, and I'm going to go ahead and overfarm a little bit more because I want to at least throw when they would get to the Scorching Sands, which is 7 quick attacks here. We're going to be able to fire off the Aqua Tail, the opponent not shielding. The Diggersby is so low, they're forced to throw. This is either a Scorching Sands or a Fire Punch. I'm going to know if Fire Punch knocks out here. It does, however, knock out, but we're still going to be able to come in with the Ninetales. The opponent is going to be able to give us a Fire Punch for the road, but I'm thinking that there's probably not much chance that they're going to be ABA weak to Ice here, and they're not. They're coming in with the Toxapex, with 2 shields up on either side. Diggersby's going to be able to dominate this matchup. However, I will shield the first one, again, just in case I do get the Scorching Sands debuff. I would rather not take a, more damage from Brian unnecessarily. But I can also save 1 shield to deal with the Diggersby in the endgame because it does have a move or so loaded. So we're going to be able to go for Scorching Sands after Scorching Sands here, and we win Charge Attack priority over the Toxapex, and now we're going to see if we get that debuff, which we do, thankfully. Now, this is easier for me now to make this decision to just let this go. I was actually thinking about just not shielding the brine whatsoever, but we do let this one go because it is going to be less attack. I feel like the opponent's going to make a swap to catch a move here, and they do, and as soon as they realized that I was expecting it and got it, they decide to concede. Good game. Horrible, horrible lead, Mawile. Even in the Diggersby, this isn't great. So the opponent's going to come in with a Mandibuzz, and this is exactly why I love the safe swap of Quagsire. Because Stone Edges are going to hit so hard, it's going to force shields, and you're going to be able to get at least 2 of them in as long as you time your moves well. Or if the opponent gives you a bit of an energy head start here, you can cleanly get to 2. You will take a Dark Pulse and an Aerial Ace. The opponent will be able to farm you down, but again, that's the beauty of having the Alolan Ninetales on the lead. The opponent's not really going to be able to put that energy anywhere effective, as the Aerial Aces really don't hit that hard. And we're going to be able to land at least 1 move here. So part of me thinks that it's probably better not to throw the Aqua Tail if you get to it here. So in this example, we don't get to it, or we do get to it. There was a couple of opportunities where I did not get to it, and I'm thinking it may have been better to, because the farm that I would be getting against the opponent's Mandibuzz here would be so much better if I could get, you know, over a Weather Ball, because it's a Shadow Mawile. It's not exactly tanky. But we're going to come in with the Diggersby, a shield up, and the opponent has their own Diggersby, and this is the game I was thinking about earlier. When we have our Diggersby, we just win this matchup because we're up a shield, and we also have an energy lead. So in the end game, I would like to get a shield off of this opponent's Diggersby, and also maybe put myself in a position to be able to throw a Scorching Sands into the Mawile. I'm going to shield up the first move because, once again, I have 2 shields. I would rather shield a full power move and maybe gamble on the chance of getting the debuff. And RNGesus just blessing us today with these attack debuffs. Now I'm okay with saving the shield for the Mawile for later, because I do know that whatever Mawile has is going to hit a lot harder than a Scorching Sands would from a Diggersby, regardless of what it's against. Like Ninetales gets 1 shot off an Iron Head. Now, the opponent goes ahead and throws a move here, and I think at this point I'm actually going to try to swap out into my Ninetales and save the Diggersby, especially after getting this attack drop. I kind of just think that maybe this is the best play. I also wanted to try and catch a Scorching Sands from the opponent, but they were paying very good attention and decided not to throw. They could have also maybe thrown a Fire Punch there if they wanted to, but I'm looking at how much damage this Mawile is going to take, and I'm like, all right, this second Weather Ball is going to almost knock this thing out, so this is perfectly fine with me. So Weather Ball is almost going to knock out the opponent, recognizing that they need more than 1 move. They are going to try to overfarm, but unfortunately they're going to go down to the Powder Snow, and that's going to be a good game. Well played. Getting into the next game here, we got Shadow Galarian Weezing on the lead. Once again, getting into the Quagsire. Look at those, man, look at those ripped. And this is the perfect setup. The perfect setup. This team, if it catches on, people will no longer feel comfortable with playing Galarian Weezing and Mandibuzz cores anymore. I mean it, like seriously. It will not exist because this team just overpowers it so horribly. The opponent's forced to shield the Stone Edge or take one. They decide to shield. I'm going to be able to get to the second one here. And I'm fine with this. Again, Shadow Quagsire is more than happy to just go down at this point. Again, perfect farm range, and if they come in with the Galarian Weezing, they're going to be forced to take a Psyshock, and the opponent also does not know what move I'm on, so they may be assuming that I'm on Charm, but once they see Powder Snow, they're going to get cooked right here. All right, we can no-shield everything here. The Aerial Ace, not doing too much damage. We're going to be able to fully farm this down and have a Psyshock loaded, and if the opponent... do they know? I don't know. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them don't respect the Psyshock, so we're going to be able to farm down the Mandibuzz here. Psyshock is locked and loaded. If the opponent comes in with the Weezing, which they do, we're going to go for 1 more Powder Snow, fire off the Psyshock, and if the opponent doesn't shield it, they do. Unfortunate. But we're going to be able to go for a shield here, and at this point, I'm pretty determined to try and land a Psyshock. I might go into my Diggersby, but I'm going to go for the Weather Ball here. The opponent makes a nice swap into the Quagsire. And at this point, I'm kind of forced to stay in and deal with the Quagsire with this. So I'm kind of glad now that I decided to shield up and, you know, preserve my Ninetales, because this energy was very helpful in dealing with this Quagsire. The opponent unable to get to 2 moves to knock me out here, trying to go for a farm down and unable to get it. They see the Diggersby. They're not going to be able to survive the Scorching Sands. And that's going to be game here with this opponent. Well played to these opponents. Really, really monster run on the day. Being able to cap this off with a 5-0 felt really, really good. If y'all have been following me for the last few weeks, you know I've been struggling, trying to figure out what leagues work, what does and what doesn't work. Now we're 100 points off of Expert, and this team absolutely shreds the Galar Cup. If you guys want to give it a try, let me know in the comments if you have a good run, or if you're playing another team in the Galar Cup that's really solid. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you all very much for watching. We're going to catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.